Zola Adid, 28, was glowing with pride that evening. Her tech startup had just landed a major contract, and her husband, Kofi Mensah, a young and ambitious architect, had been promoted at his firm. They decided to celebrate with a small, quiet family dinner at their apartment in Accra. Nothing fancy, just good food, soft music, and laughter shared with the people they trusted most. Zola felt a deep sense of contentment. Life had been challenging, but moments like this made it all worth it. She was excited to share her success with her family, especially with her mother, Mama Efua, who had always seemed supportive, or at least that's what Zola believed. As the evening began, Zola noticed the little things that didn't quite feel right. Mama Efua smiled, but her eyes darted sharply whenever Zola spoke. Whispers and hushed comments floated across the room, just out of clear hearing. Zola tried to brush it off, telling herself she was overthinking. Kofi sensed her tension and reached for her hand, giving a reassuring squeeze. Despite the warmth of their cozy dinner setup, the flickering candles, the soft jazz in the background, an unease lingered in the It was subtle, almost invisible, but Zola's gut told her something was off. The night, which should have been full of celebration and love, held a quiet tension, like the calm before a storm. She didn't yet know that this ordinary-looking dinner would turn into a night that changed everything. Zola stepped into the dining room, expecting the warm smiles and gentle laughter that usually greeted her. The smell of jollof rice and grilled chicken made her mouth water, and for a moment, she felt that familiar bubble of happiness. But the moment she crossed the threshold, everything froze. Her sister, Amma, was standing there, a smug look on her face. Without even a hint of hesitation, she pointed a finger at Zola and said in a sharp, commanding tone, "Get out. You're not welcome tonight." The words hit Zola like a punch. For a second, she couldn't breathe. Guests, friends, a few distant relatives looked on, their expressions frozen between shock and confusion. Zola blinked, trying to make sense of what she'd just heard. Her mother, Mama Efua, didn't move, didn't intervene. Her silence felt louder than any words could have been. Kofi's hand found hers instinctively, but he looked just as stunned, shifting from foot to foot, unsure whether to argue or stay quiet. His usual calm was gone, replaced by awkward hesitation. Zola could see the tension twisting inside him, caught between love for her and the fear of upsetting his mother. Zola's mind raced. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. The way Amma's lips curled in that smug little smile, the way Mama Efua avoided her gaze, it all felt deliberate. A cold realization crept over her. This was planned. Someone had set this up to humiliate her, to make her feel small in front of everyone she cared about. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest. The room that had promised warmth now felt like a trap, every familiar face suddenly tinged with uncertainty. Zola swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay calm, though her body was screaming in protest. She knew one thing for certain. This night would not end the way she had imagined. Something had shifted, and her safe, happy life was about to be shaken to its core. After the shocking moment at the door, Zola retreated to the kitchen, pretending to check on the food while her mind raced. She needed a moment to breathe, to make sense of what had just happened. That's when she heard it, soft whispers coming from the living room. She froze, straining to catch the words. "He'd be so much better off with Amma," Mama Efua said, her tone smooth but with a sharp edge underneath. "I just don't see why Zola has to get in the way. Maybe it's time we make a plan." Zola's blood ran cold. A plan? Did her mother really mean arranging Kofi's future with her sister? Without her consent? Every laugh, every smile Mama Efua had ever given her now felt hollow, staged. She could feel the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest. Her mind flashed back to subtle signs she had brushed off before. Mama Efua's quick criticisms of Zola's work, the constant comparisons to Amma, the way she praised her sister's achievements while dismissing Zola's. Even small things, like choosing what Zola wore for family events or insisting Amma should sit closer to Kofi, now made sense. It wasn't care or concern. It had been manipulation from the start. Zola's hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to stay quiet, listening to the rest of the conversation. Amma's voice, usually full of charm, carried an unmistakable smugness. "I just don't want to hurt her, but Mama is right," she whispered. "Kofi and I would work better." Shock turned into a mix of anger and clarity. Zola realized she had been living in a carefully constructed illusion, one where her mother's control and Amma's ambition were always quietly steering her. This wasn't about a small family disagreement. It was a deliberate attempt to push her out, to rewrite her marriage according to their desires. Zola felt a surge of determination. She had been blindsided before, yes, but not anymore. She would not let her mother or sister manipulate her marriage or her life. Every smile, every word, every achievement she had worked so hard for would not be stolen or dismissed. Taking a deep breath, Zola stepped back from the doorway, letting the whispers fade behind her. Her heart still thudded, but her mind was clear. This was the moment she decided she would fight, not with anger or shouting, but with strategy. If her mother thought she could control Zola quietly, she had another thing coming. Zola and Kofi stepped into their bedroom, closing the door behind them. She could feel her chest tightening, a mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief swirling inside her. She turned to him, her eyes searching for answers. "Kofi, what's going on? Why didn't you stop them?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kofi ran a hand through his hair, looking conflicted and unsure. "Zola, I didn't know what to do. My mother. I can't just, she has her ways, and I didn't want to make things worse," he admitted, his voice low. Hearing this, Zola felt a sting of betrayal. She loved him, trusted him, and yet here he was, paralyzed by fear of his own mother while she had been publicly humiliated. She swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. "You didn't even try to defend us. You let her decide our lives for us," she said, a tear threatening to fall. As Kofi stayed silent, Zola's mind began to flash back over the years, the subtle ways Mama Efua had undermined her. The constant comparisons to Amma, the casual remarks that her achievements weren't enough, the quiet dismissals whenever she tried to assert herself. She remembered the promotion she had celebrated last month, when Mama Efua muttered, "That's nice, but Amma's project would have been more impressive." Every one of these moments now felt like pieces of a puzzle, revealing a pattern of control and manipulation. Anger bubbled alongside the hurt. She realized her mother's behavior wasn't just overbearing, it was calculated. Every compliment had a hidden edge, every praise a shadow of comparison. And for so long she had ignored it, thinking Mama Efua meant well. But the truth was glaring now. Zola took a deep breath, steadying herself. She felt the hurt and betrayal, yes, but beneath that was a growing fire of determination. She would not let fear or family politics dictate her life. She would not allow her marriage or her happiness to be stolen. Turning back to Kofi, she said firmly, "We have to face this together. I love you, but I will not let anyone control us. Not my mother, not Amma, no one. If we don't stand up now, it will never stop." Kofi nodded, finally meeting her gaze. He could see the steel in her eyes, the resolve that would not be shaken. In that moment, Zola felt something shift inside her. The humiliation and pain were still there, but they were now fueling her strength. She knew the battle ahead wouldn't be easy, but one thing was certain. She would fight for her marriage, her dignity, and her life on her own terms. Zola couldn't shake the feeling that she had to take control. If she didn't act, her mother's manipulation could quietly destroy her marriage. She decided it was time to get proof, clear, undeniable proof, of everything Mama Efua had been doing. She started with her phone, scrolling through months of messages, screenshots of texts where her mother subtly undermined her, messages where Amma laughed along with her mother's little scheme. She even found old voice notes and recordings, where Mama Efua's comments about Zola's shortcomings and Amma's superiority were casually dropped into conversations. Each one made her stomach twist, but also strengthened her resolve. Zola dug deeper, recalling family events where she had felt awkward or excluded. She realized it wasn't coincidence. Mama Efua had a pattern. Birthdays where Amma got the best gifts, gatherings where Amma's achievements were celebrated while Zola's were quietly dismissed, financial advice and career tips that always seemed to favor Amma. Even social appearances were manipulated, photos carefully framed to show Amma's success, while Zola's accomplishments were minimized. Every piece of evidence, every small detail she uncovered, painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. Mama Efua's favoritism wasn't just annoying, it was strategic. It was designed to make Zola feel inferior, to make her question herself, and to clear a path for Amma. As she organized the messages, recordings, and memories into folders on her laptop, Zola felt a mix of emotions, anger, hurt, and determination. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about protecting her marriage, her dignity, and her right to live life on her own terms. She needed a strategy, not an outburst. By the time she finished, she had a complete record. Screenshots of text messages, audio recordings of whispered comments, examples of financial favoritism, and a timeline of manipulated events. She leaned back, feeling a surge of empowerment. For the first time in years, she had clarity. This evidence would be her shield and her voice. She didn't have to yell, beg, or cry. She had facts, and facts had power. Zola knew that when the time came to confront her mother and sister, she would do it smartly, calmly, decisively, and in a way that left no room for doubt or denial. For the first time that night, Zola smiled. The storm hadn't passed, but she was ready. She was no longer just a victim of family manipulation. She was prepared to fight back and win. Zola sat in her apartment, laptop open, evidence laid out in neat folders. But her mind was still buzzing with anxiety. She knew she had proof, but how could she confront her mother and sister without turning the situation into chaos? That's when she remembered Nana Kwame, her mentor and one of the most respected entrepreneurs in Accra. Nana had guided her through countless business challenges, and if anyone could help her navigate this personal storm, it was him. She sent a quick message, and within minutes, Nana was at her door. Calm, confident, and observant, he took in the room, the folders on the table and Zola's tense posture. "What's going on, Zola?" he asked gently. She explained everything, the humiliation at the dinner, the whispered conversations, the pattern of manipulation. Nana listened quietly, nodding, letting her pour out the anger and hurt she had bottled up for so long. When she finished, he leaned back, thoughtful. "Zola," he said, "you have every reason to be upset, but anger alone won't protect your marriage or your dignity. You need a plan, a clear, calm approach that lets the truth speak for itself." Over the next hour, Nana guided her step by step. He helped her organize the evidence so it told a story without her having to raise her voice. He showed her how to frame her words carefully, so the focus remained on the facts, not on emotional blame. "People respect composure," he said. "Your strength isn't in yelling or crying. It's in showing them that manipulation won't work on you." Zola listened intently, absorbing every piece of advice. Nana also taught her how to handle Kofi's support, making sure he felt included and confident, so they could face the confrontation as a team. With every tip, every suggestion, Zola felt the tension in her shoulders ease. She could feel her confidence returning, stronger than it had been in weeks. By the time Nana left, Zola was ready. She had a plan, a strategy, and most importantly, she had belief in herself. She didn't need revenge or drama. She would reveal the truth with clarity and dignity, protecting her marriage and her own self-respect. For the first time since that humiliating evening, Zola felt calm and powerful. She looked around her apartment, the evidence neatly arranged, and smiled. The battle ahead would be tough, but she was no longer scared. With Nana's guidance, she had learned the most important lesson. Strength isn't just standing up, it's standing up smartly. Tonight, she would finally take control of her life. The dining room was decorated beautifully, the smell of spicy jollof and grilled chicken filling the air, but the warmth of the evening was gone. Zola sat at the table with Kofi, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Mama Efua and Amma were already seated, their eyes sharp, their smiles false. From the moment she arrived, it was clear they were ready for battle. As soon as the first course was served, Amma leaned forward, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Zola, you really think you can control everything, don't you?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Always so selfish, always so demanding." Mama Efua nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on Zola. "We just worry about Kofi," she added. "He's too good for all this drama." The words were like knives. Guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure where to look. Kofi tried to speak, but his voice faltered. Zola felt the familiar sting of humiliation creeping up her spine. She could feel her face burning, but this time, she didn't want to cry. She refused to let them see her broken. Just as Amma opened her mouth to add another cutting remark, the front door opened, and Mr. Asante, Kofi's boss, walked in unexpectedly. The room quieted immediately. He was a tall, confident man, respected in Accra's architecture circle, and his presence commanded attention. "Zola," he said warmly, extending his hand. "I hope I'm not too late. I just heard about your latest project. It's brilliant. The team at your startup has done an incredible job, and I want everyone here to know what you've accomplished." The words landed like a thunderclap. Every guest turned to look at Zola, including her mother and sister. They could no longer hide their shock. Zola's achievements, the contracts she had fought for, the projects she had completed under impossible deadlines, were suddenly undeniable, right in front of their eyes. Amma's smug smile faltered. Mama Efua blinked rapidly, as if trying to erase the moment from memory. The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Zola's heart raced, but this time it wasn't fear, it was empowerment. The truth was finally out, and no one could twist it. Zola met Kofi's eyes, feeling a surge of gratitude. He squeezed her hand, silently telling her they were in this together. For the first time that evening, she felt in control. The shame her mother and sister had tried to throw at her had no power here. Not with Mr. Asante's words echoing through the room, not with the undeniable evidence of her hard work standing proudly. And just like that, the balance began to shift. Zola knew this dinner would not end with humiliation. It would end with her finally being seen for the strong, capable woman she was. Zola took a deep breath, feeling her heart pound with a mixture of nerves and determination. The room was still silent after Mr. Asante's words, the tension so thick it felt almost physical. She knew this was her moment. Slowly, she opened her laptop and projected the evidence she had gathered onto the screen. Messages, recordings, and images of whispered conversations appeared, each one a clear example of the favoritism and manipulation she had endured. The pattern was undeniable. Guests leaned forward, whispering to each other in shock. Faces that had once looked uncomfortable now looked stunned, as the truth unfolded right before their eyes. Amma's smug expression vanished, replaced by a tight, panicked frown. Mama Efua's eyes widened, and she shifted in her seat, unable to find a word to respond. The carefully constructed image of control and authority they had maintained for so long was crumbling, and they knew it. Kofi stepped forward, his voice steady, stronger than it had been all evening. "I need to say something," he said, looking directly at his mother. "You tried to control my life and my marriage, without even talking to me. But Zola is my wife, and I choose her always. Your manipulation stops now." The room was silent again, but this time it was different. This silence carried respect, realization, and a shift in power. Guests who had been unsure before now looked at Zola with admiration. She wasn't just a daughter-in-law. They could see she was a strong, intelligent woman who would not be bullied or undermined. Zola felt a surge of relief and pride. She spoke clearly, without anger, letting the evidence and her voice do the work. "I love Kofi and I respect our family," she said, her tone firm but calm. "But I will not allow anyone to manipulate my life, my marriage, or my happiness. The truth matters, and I hope this helps everyone understand that control has consequences." Mama Efua and Amma exchanged a glance, their previous confidence completely gone. The room had shifted. No longer could they dominate or intimidate her. Every whisper, every sneer, every attempt at shame had been exposed and defeated, not with yelling or tears, but with clarity, courage, and undeniable truth. Zola sat back, feeling an incredible sense of empowerment. The humiliation they had tried to throw at her had turned into strength, and the respect she had earned now radiated throughout the room. For the first time in a long time, she felt free from manipulation, from doubt, and from fear. The battle had been hard, but tonight she had won. After the tense showdown at the dinner, Zola and Kofi sat together in their living room, finally able to breathe. The confrontation had been exhausting, but it had also been necessary. Now they needed to make sure their marriage, and their peace, was protected. They began by talking openly about what had happened and how they would handle similar situations in the future. Kofi admitted that he had let fear hold him back, but he promised to stand firmly beside Zola from now on. Together, they agreed on clear boundaries with Mama Efua and Amma. Phone calls would be answered politely but briefly. Family gatherings would be attended only on their terms, and any interference in their personal or professional lives would not be tolerated. Zola made it clear that respect was non-negotiable. Setting boundaries wasn't easy. Mama Efua and Amma tested them at first, making subtle comments or trying to insert themselves into decisions. But Zola and Kofi stayed calm, responding with firmness rather than anger. Over time, their family began to realize that Zola was serious. The manipulations, whispers, and attempts to control no longer worked. Slowly, respect replaced tension. Friends and distant relatives noticed the change too. They could see the strength and integrity Zola displayed, and it commanded admiration. Zola felt a growing sense of liberation. For years, she had let her mother's quiet manipulation undermine her confidence. Now she was free from that weight. She could focus on her career, her marriage, and herself without fear of judgment or interference. Every decision she made felt empowered, deliberate, and her own. Even Kofi, who had been cautious before, now spoke openly about supporting Zola and protecting their partnership. Together, they celebrated their victories quietly at first, sharing small moments of joy, laughter, and mutual respect. The house felt lighter, warmer, more like a true home. Zola realized something important. Boundaries weren't just about keeping toxic people away. They were about honoring herself and her work. The confidence she had gained wasn't just for that dinner or that one confrontation. It was a lifelong tool. She felt proud, strong, and unstoppable, no longer defined by manipulation or approval from others. For the first time in a long while, Zola could imagine a future filled with possibilities rather than fear. Her marriage was safe, her dignity intact, and her voice, once silenced by family interference, was louder and stronger than ever. She had taken control of her life, and in doing so, she had proven to herself that nothing, not even family, could take that away. Word about Zola's courage spread fast. Friends shared her story on social media, local news outlets picked it up, and soon, women across Ghana, and even other parts of Africa, were reading about how she had stood up to family manipulation and defended her marriage. Messages poured in from women thanking her, sharing their own struggles, and asking for advice. Zola realized that her story had touched something bigger than herself. It had become a spark for change. Inspired, she decided to take action. Zola launched a mentorship program for young women, teaching them how to set boundaries, protect their relationships, and stand strong in the face of pressure from family or society. She shared the lessons she had learned the hard way: the importance of knowing your worth, gathering evidence when necessary, and confronting challenges with calm confidence rather than anger. Each session was filled with stories, practical tips, and encouragement, and every meeting reminded her that she was not alone. As her influence grew, Zola began posting short videos and messages online, sharing the core of her journey. One line, in particular, resonated with everyone who read it. "No one can give away what is mine. My life, my marriage, my dignity belong to me." The words went viral, shared thousands of times, quoted in articles, and repeated in discussions across communities. Zola felt a deep sense of fulfillment. What had started as a painful, humiliating experience had transformed into something powerful. Her story became more than a personal victory. It became a symbol of empowerment, courage, and triumph over betrayal. She had turned her pain into purpose, and in doing so, inspired countless women to take control of their own lives and refuse to let anyone else dictate their happiness.